Evening, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast, My Performance for Non-League. Today, our guest he doesn't need much introduction. He's been around non-league for many, many years, around Ilford, Clapton, very successful in his role. So obviously, if you don't know who Bert is right now, you're too young for that, really. Welcome to the podcast, Bert.
Welcome to you, AJ, and to Miles.
How you doing, mate? Happy New Year.
Doing well.
Good.
Missing the football.
Your back's in, isn't it? So, just the question that we always ask everyone that comes on the podcast: what does high performance means to you?
A couple of things: commitment by both player and coaching staff manager, and belief. They were the two things I think. The commitment by the players, commitment to the club, to the manager and their teammates, training, everything that goes with that, with the training, how they conduct themselves after training. What do they do after training? Do they just abuse their bodies after they've done the running, the set pieces? Do they think about the game? And down to the manager and coach is instilling belief in the players as well. They've got to have belief. If they ain't got belief, the performance will not fall in line with the commitment as well.
So when we talk about something like belief, how do you inject that into young players, senior players, just players in general? How do we inject it as coaches and managers into players?
You encourage them. You encourage them in different ways. When you see some players when they come through the stadium, you can judge them if they need an arm around them or they need a bit of pushing. But mostly nowadays the young players is more about encouragement. Because a lot of young players, what I see sometimes, they fail in something, they think that's it. They can't progress. But you got to be there to say, no, keep going. I believe in you. I know you can succeed. Even if they fail 1, 2, 3 times, you encourage them again. And then you see the fruits of it. And you know, AJ, you've seen a lot of young players when they haven't performed that well, but you've seen them in training, they can do it. And when you persevere with them, the fruits will bear. And you can 100%. See them flourish.
100%. And you talked about commitment level. Obviously, in non-league, it's really hard to be committed. You're working, you've got a family, you've got young kids. How do you yourself, how do you get the edge and the commitment level to carry on doing it for so long? What drives you to keep doing it?
Yeah, it's the same. Each individual has different circumstances, and it's about listening to them. Like you said about work, some people will work, they'll finish early, they can get to train early. Some people do shifts, so you got to adapt to them, and that shows with the same thing with the belief. You're trying to help them out. They want to play, but they're saying, "Oh, this week I'm on early shift. I can do it. Next week I'm on late shift, so I won't be able to make training this week, but I'll be able to play in the game." But this is where you come into it. You got to learn to understand where they're coming from as well. Not just, well, you're working late, you can't play this week, whatever, and that sort of disheartens them.
Yeah.
So if you can meet them halfway, that they will give you, like I said, that commitment back to you. But some weeks they might not be able to make it, so you got to adapt to each situation.
So if we're talking about high performance every single week, and that includes training, and if one of your top players can't come to training, then the lesser players are in training. How do you get high performance from the same player that's not coming to training and is a massive part of your Saturday game?
Well, this is where you talk to them saying, right, if you can't make it training for, say, they're doing a two week rota. So 2 weeks they won't be at training. You got to say to them that them 2 weeks you got to find time to put in some work in, and then at the same thing you're going to say to them, though you're not there, if you're putting the work in, I will see it on the football pitch.
100%.
If your performance goes down, I know you're not putting the work in as well. So it goes both ways as well. So if they're not putting the work in, that's when you can sort of say you're not putting the work in. You have to drop you or rest you. You've got to show me that you want to be in this club or in this team.
So if you look back at when you was at Ilford, obviously you was a captain before that, so you was at Ilford. We built a really good squad. I believe between you and Gaffer, you did really, really well to build a good, really strong side with peanuts. The money wasn't great, what we was receiving at that time. But if you look at the teams like Linden Market, they had big budget, and we went there to turn them over at their place as well that year, that I remember. What did you guys did? What did you and Colin did to make sure that you got the best out of us? Obviously, we don't see what you guys do behind the scene. So what was the conversation like on a Friday night when you guys are picking the team? Because the team was really strong.
Well, we talked all through the week about the training, trying to make the training interesting, to make it fun. And we got in players who wanted to play for each other, not for themselves, play with each other. And one of the games I can remember when we played Sudbury, or I remember that game against Sudbury, you and Buddy. That I think we lost on the last kick of the game, and they were getting paid, a few £100, and we were, was it £20 or £30 just transport money, but we built a squad that wanted to work for each other and wanted to play with each other. And me and Colin said, if a bigger club comes in for you at a high standard, we will not stand in your way. So that's where, that's how we built like a family, really.
It was because I believe it was the year that we left, the team got relegated as well on top of it, which means the work that you guys was putting in was absolutely immense in the last, I think it was 2 years, 3 years we was there for. It just shows the work he was doing, because it wasn't easy to be getting £20 and competing with the boys that actually, obviously we was never going to win the league, but we was never going down as well. And the teams that was going down was getting paid real money. Like, it was stupid that time. So between you and Gaffer, what did you guys do outside football to refresh your memory, to get yourself ready every single week? Because it's really hard to just think about football. What other sports did you get into, or what did you look at? What film did you watch to get your mind cleared from football?
Yeah, sometimes for me, I can't speak for Colin. For me, I used to like switch off, just switch off, and just switch off football after Saturday, Sunday, to switch off. Then come back. If we had a game Tuesday, the Monday evening, I'll be thinking about what we could be doing for that game, or if it was we didn't have a game, if it was training Thursday, Wednesday, thinking about the training session and what and sort of game plans, what me and Colin could come up with if we were going to play like Sudbury or Needham Market or any of those, or Grays, any of those teams, what we could do. And the players, because same thing we were saying, you had some players, I think even you were working sort of late shifts and everything else like that. So we had to sort of juggle teams around, juggle players around, thinking, right, oh, AJ might not be there for the kickoff, so we just get everyone warmed up. When AJ comes, you just come straight in. One time, I think it was 5 minutes before kickoff, you just arrived, got changed, and we played. So we had to do things like that. But nowadays, I think things have changed a little bit now. You got more younger players. Some are really hungry. Some thinks they're entitled to get the money without proving themselves, like you're doing. You're what I've been watching you and what seeing the players you're getting good young players who are hungry. They're not looking for the money. They're hungry. They know if they do well, then they get that next big move.
100%. So for yourself, if you build a team again today, what are the core values that you look for in players? What do you look for in players?
Respect for themselves, the manager and the team, and the hunger. Not hunger to play, hunger to learn.
Yeah.
Hunger to learn. Because like yourself, though you're manager, you're still learning. And that's what they got to be looking for. They've got to still be learning to improve themselves. Even if they make a big move to like a national team, they've got to be thinking that's not it. They want to go up even higher. They want to learn a lot more, train harder, learn from good pros, not bad pros. As you know, as you're going through playing, you got some good senior pros and bad senior pros.
Yeah.
And learning from them.
So your mentality of learning, when did you develop that as a young man in school? How was that for you? Trying to learn?
School. Primary school. I wanted to learn football, cricket, athletic. I wanted to learn. I wanted to know why is that? Why can't I do that? What can I do to improve and things like that? But
have you come from a background where mom, dad, everyone in the family was into sports?
No. My mum and dad were not into sports. Not into sports.
So where did you get that edge from then? What drove you to want to do it though?
At primary school, when I started playing football, one of my teachers said, "You're not a bad player. Do you play for a team?" I said, "No." And that was when I was in primary school, year 5. And they asked me to play for a year 6.
Wow.
And then I started playing. Then one of my friends said, join this team. And that's when I started playing football.
That's good. And at what age did you pick up the management skills? And how did you learn it?
I wanted to, managing, that come later. Coaching came. Coaching came in the early age when I was about 16, 17. I like playing, but I like I love teaching or coaching. That's when it come from. So when I stopped playing when I was about 30 odd, that's when I started taking my badges. And that's the only thing I regret. I should have taken my badges earlier, at a younger age.
So you're saying you regret it, but obviously you've got the badges now, and you've done really well. Like if we look at the players that's played under you, so we look at Remy Nelson, we look at LJ, we look at Junior Kanodu. These are top players.
What a player!
Those are top players from East London that a lot of people will be thinking, Bert managed them. Yes, it did. How did you get the best out of them every single week? Because they was already genius already. But how did you make sure they stayed on their toes?
Working them hard, and like you said about high performance, you know what they can do, and if they drop that performance, I was on their back because I know they could do better. So,
and how did the boys take it? Obviously, you was a bit harsh with when we was playing. There's some people that got their hair dried treatment. So I think I think Carl Paul was part of that as well. Got proper air dryer. Simo got proper air dryer from you. How do you feel the players feel when you did that as men?
Hopefully they took it the right way. I'll always, when I've given my hair dryer, it's always in a positive way, never negative, unless they very rarely I give them negatives, unless the performance was really, really bad and they needed it. But most of the time when I give them hair dryer, it's normally positive.
When would you say a player really needs a hair dryer properly? When would you lose everything for a player?
When I know they're not putting in the work, and you can see it. Probably before a game, I can sense what a team are going to do. I can sense that straight away. What players are going to perform, or I can sense if the team are going to perform or not. I can sense that straight away.
There's some players that will frustrate the life out of managers, and I believe I was one of them. And when I was playing, I refused to warm up, and that was just me. I just couldn't do it.
Yeah,
I just didn't know how to warm up. But obviously, when the whistle went, I knew how to be switched on. But while I was doing that, you and Colin at one stage did not have a go at me. Every other player would look and think, oh, he's not warming up again. But for some reason, no one shouted at me or no one told me what to do. I just carried on doing what I wanted to do. What was your mindset in that, for just allowing it to happen?
As I said before, you get to know your players. You got to get to know your players. And some players like yourself do not warm up good in the warm up. Or some players in training, they could be terrible in training, but on Saturday or whatever, or Tuesday night or Thursday night, they'll be ready. They will perform. They will perform. So that's where you got. I think this is where psychology comes in it as well. This is where you got to get to know your players. If you don't, your players won't perform. Your players will
and
not.
Where have you learned that skill from to get to know your players? What did you do to get that level of skills? Because it's not easy, because I try to do it every time. I know some of my players, but I can't tell you I know all of them. What did you do to make sure that you knew every single one of us? Because you actually did.
There's one, my old Sunday manager, he's gone now, passed away, Steve Ballard, who used to play for a team called Bernard United. He used to get to know every player, what they did, what they did for a living, and everything like that. So that's how he gets to know the players. That's why I say, when I meet a player, what do you do? What do you do for a living? What about? That's how you get your conversation, and then you try to get to know the players. Have they got a girlfriend? Are they married? What other things do they do outside? It can't just be football, and that's how you get to know the players, and that's when you get
it's more when I ask you what that means to you, is part of the commitment and the communication part of high performance. Really, is for yourself. Is you have to get to know your players, and once you get to know your players, you're building into a relationship with them.
Yeah, 100%. Even nowadays, the top managers now, I've been watching like the Pep Guardiola and Arteta. Arteta has taken from Pep getting to know his players. That's why he's got young players. That's why he got rid of all them old players who do want to change. Yeah. And there's young players who are hungry. They want to learn, and you can see the commitment they've got, and that's what you've got. That's what you're creating. Yeah, you are.
We're trying. So when we was at Ilford, we had a centre half, and it was me, Simo, and Thomas. Between us three, obviously, we was decent at that level. We could play that level. We knew we could play that level. But obviously, with Simo, it was a captain. What did it take for you and Colin to look at it and think it's time for AJ and Liam to start playing together, instead of put your captain on the bench?
When it comes to things like that, when you can see two players or three players, the two players like yourself and Thomas there, and you can see the other player is not on the same level, his level's going down. This is where you need to have a conversation with the player at training and saying, this is going to be happening soon. And then you gauge by the player's reaction how he takes the news. But you got to say it in front of him. You don't just drop him in front of everybody without him knowing. Yeah. And that's disrespect. So he either takes it in good heart and thinks, right then, if they're looking to drop me, I'm either going to do one or two things: walk away, or I'm going to step it up. So I make it very hard for them to drop me.
Do you know what? That's a lesson I've got to learn from that. Because when you're obviously nowadays, I don't think a lot of managers take time in things like that. We just, if you drop someone, we drop someone, and we just think we've got the power. But that's a massive lesson that I'm going to write down and make sure I take that on board as well. Is you've got to have conversation like that with, especially senior players. You need that kind of conversation because if you look at the relationship you and Simo at the end of it was still very, very strong, and he didn't become a bad egg. He carried on as a captain, but on the bench, which was really good. And he used to come over to talk to me and Simo because the standard that he was setting 3 years before we even got to start to left and first team level was above what what was doing. But obviously with age, it was declining, and everyone could see it as well.
Yeah.
And with the senior players, I believe they just become more of your friends with senior players. So that conversation is a conversation that young managers run away from. And I've been a massive victim of that, where I just don't want to talk to the senior players because I'm so close to them as a mate.
Yeah, well, that's when you got that's where you got to put a line where you can be friends, but they got to understand that you're the manager.
Yeah.
And then whatever you decide in football, that's football. After football, yeah, we're friends. Football, I'm manager. This is the team I'm going to put out, and that's it. And if they're real friends, they'll understand it.
Yeah, and I think
sometimes I take it personally.
Yeah, I think the last year in Tower Hamlets, the reason why it went pear-shaped for us was I had too many of my friends in the same team, where you couldn't control what was going on because you had so much friends in there. And it's not because I built a friendship with them; it just happened, and you don't want to drop them because they become your mates now. But again, it's something that you got to take on board, and I've got to be conscious of as well as a young manager. And a lot of young managers should take a lot from that is how to separate yourself from being a leader. And it happens everywhere. It happens at your workplace as well, especially at work. That is something you need to be conscious of. You're the manager and they're your workers, and there's boundaries of this is a shift. We've got to do the shift really well.
Yeah. So, remember, players can sack you.
Yeah.
Players can get you the sack. And it's 100%. hard for managers to get a job. For players, you can drop them, they can leave. They can leave one club and go to another club and play a game.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. It's something that a lot of managers should understand as well. Is if a manager gets sacked, it's hard to get a job anywhere else. Really, really hard because you look out now, and not enough managers will come back at step 5 or step 4 or step 3. So picking the right players is actually key to what we're doing, and just building relationship is really key.
Yeah.
For anyone else listening, Bert, any last information you want to give a young manager starting off? What's your advice to a young manager starting his own career now at step 5, step 6, step 7?
First of all, believe in yourself, believe in what you want to do with the team. And also, main thing, you got to enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, you won't succeed. That's it.
Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I've learned a lot from it straight away. I've learned a lot. And I'll be taking some of it back into training, speaking to my management team about it as well. So thank you so much for giving your insight what high performance means. Thank you so much, Bert.
Right. My pleasure.